Alrighty, so we have this issue right here. I'm chatting it to you, and it's about associating group milestones to a particular release. So in the GitLab use case, we obviously use a group milestone as a part of our monthly release cadence. And today it's very challenging to orchestrate and plan across all these different projects if you can't use the same sort of milestone, if you're using milestones for planning. So the gist of this issue is hi Hannah, is to allow us to connect that planning at the group level across all the projects for their releases. And now that Hyan is here, I can cut it over to her, but that's just the context. Any questions or thoughts on that immediately?
No questions so far.
Cool. Then I think you already have the link to the prototype. Just gonna send here in the chat again. So if you can open this link and then share your screen with us so that we can see how you navigate and we can ask the questions. Yes.
Do I need to sign in by any chance?
No, you don't have to.
Okay.
Do you see a play icon on the top right of the screen? Yeah.
Yes, I do.
So you can click that. Let's see if it starts on the right page. My first time doing that, so let's see. All right, cool. So this prototype is interactive, just to give you some context, but you cannot click on everything. And I'm gonna ask a couple of questions, so if you can, just answer out loud as you navigate. The first question is, where would you go to create this group level release, a group level version for this group?
Yeah, I would imagine it would be either under where the milestones are. So I don't remember where the milestones are by heart, to be honest, but probably I would like to see it like a sidebar here, like I really don't remember where the milestones are, but probably either under issues or like epics, where I can have like, okay, this is the milestone and the milestone has this release. So under the milestone information, I would see the release associated with it.
And can you just dive a little bit into why would you want to create that under milestones?
Since the release is associated to milestone, right? Since like for example, GitLab uses milestones to plan a release. I would expect that a release and the milestone are pretty much the same thing from a changelog point of view or from a deployment point of view. So the release should have the issues related to it. Also, the milestone should have the issues related to it. And the release and the milestone are like one-to-one relationship, right?
Okay, we got you. For this prototyping specifically, if you look at the side menu, what do you notice different related to group releases, if anything?
There is the releases one. Okay, I just saw that one.
What do you expect to do in this one?
So I would expect to create a new release, and probably when I click on new group release, it would give me a list of the milestones that are available already.
Yeah, you can click and try to do that.
Okay. So release title, create from. So select one of or more projects releases. Okay, so this one is selecting a project, I guess, right? If that's the case, that would be strange because for a milestone, I do not select a project. So a milestone is associated to every project that's inside of the group. So I would expect the release to be the same. But I do understand why there's this as well, because it might be the case that, for example, project X does not need to be released and this does not need to have any work for this release. But maybe the release can be can know that by default if there are any issues or merge requests assigned to that milestone, it can say, okay, then this project is not included in this release because there's no issues or milestones attached to it, to the milestone. So this seems a bit weird at the end. You might explain it to me and say, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. But that's my initial gut reaction.
Can you, yeah, just quickly say what else do you see in this page? What do you understand from this form?
Yeah. Milestone, I expected to give me the list of the open milestones. Probably even the closed milestone if I want to create a previous release that we already done. I would not expect to see the release note. So if it's an upcoming milestone, probably the release notes are still not final, right? So things can change. So maybe that would be done. This would only either pop up or give me the option to add it when I choose a milestone that's already closed. This does not seem applicable for all cases. But then again, I'm not a UX person. So that's just my initial gut reaction.
Okay. Just for the sakes of the flow, you can try and follow the form order. So first release title, and then you see. Can you tell us a little bit about what you see there, what you understand from?
Okay, so select releases. Aha. Okay, so these are the releases that are inside of the project already. So there's already a release existing for that project. So for the GitLab project, there's these releases, and for the pajama designs, there's these releases. Okay, so I'm suspecting, so this group milestone, this create from is basically grouping multiple releases into one release. Okay, now I get it. So yeah, this create from makes a lot of sense now. So I expect to, for example, and then the milestones. So go ahead.
No, continue.
So one thing that I see strange is the group milestone or project milestones. I thought we were talking about group level stuff here. So seeing project specific things can seem strange, but I like that we have a create new one. So if it's an upcoming thing and the milestone does not exist, I can create one. I quite like that. And the manage milestone links as well, because it's always nice to quickly link to those stuff. And then, I like that it's actually split up, because sometimes we have everything in one list and it's not very obvious which one is group level and which one is project level. So if we need to have those two separate, I like that they're separate. And
I have a question about your workflow in Runner. So do you version Runner the same way as you version GitLab monthly milestone? So is the Runner version 13.3 coming out?
Yes, so we stick to the same versioning just because it's easier for users to correlate Runner release with GitLab release.
Got it. In this use case, we could support a different milestone for the runner, indicating a different version, and tie it to the GitLab group milestone.
Okay, so you're saying in a scenario where the runner does not follow 13.3, for example, it follows 1.5, right?
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense, because like there's a lot of projects that does this, and GitLab, like for example, Workhorse, Gitly, and things like that, they have their own specific milestones. So I think that makes sense, but from a product perspective, I think Workhorse and Gitly still uses the 13.3 milestones and 13.2 milestones, for example. They just associate the milestone with the release differently. But yeah, now I get why you have a project-specific milestone, because the release versions might be different. And then when I click Save Changes, I'm expecting it to give me a view of, So my group release. So this sent me back to all the releases for the group. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us what you're seeing there in the page, if there's anything that you expect to happen in this page specifically?
Yeah, so I like that I can split between the expired. Well, the expired, I'm not too sure what expired means. Does that mean previous releases, or um, does that mean something else? Because then I would expect, if it's expired, meaning that the releases that already happened, that would mean that I would see 2 here, because group release 1.2 and 1.3 have finished, for example. But I like the upcoming one, and that I can look at the upcoming ones, and I have a list of all the um, releases I'm expecting that these are, or yeah, these seem to be releases, unless there are milestones. I like the progress bar to see, okay, this release is at 50% or whatever because of all the issues and merge requests that were closed. Test milestone and first milestone. This is the list of milestones, I'm not guessing. So these are the milestones and these are the releases. Maybe naming something here releases, because we already specify milestones here. So maybe it's just me like being explicit what these are.
Like project releases, since those are the
project
sub-project
releases.
releases. Okay.
Yeah, because at the moment, unless I click on it to see what it is, it's not very obvious. And everything else is labeled here at the moment.
I think the first item is clickable. The first item in the pajamas design system. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So it sends me to the release. So that makes sense. But like I had to click on it to actually see what it is.
What type of indication would you expect in the previous page that would help understanding what the item is?
Probably just the word releases, for example. Like we had milestones, we had issues, milestones colon, issues colon. It might be too chatty from a UI perspective, so I'm not sure how it will look. But saying that these are releases, like for example, might be just because I was not familiar with how what the releases names were. But like for example, if I'm a product manager and like I see all these and I'm not too familiar, like for example with pajama design, right? I do not know anything about pajama design. Like what are they, for example? Are they releases? Are they the pajama design milestones or anything like that? So I had to go by elimination kind of thing to see what they actually are.
Can you click the browser arrow to go back? Or
yeah,
how you can, but let's see. Okay, cool. What if anything is missing on this view? That will help. Yeah.
Okay, so the goal here to have a group release, we have new group release, which is good. We can edit a specific release. The sidebar, I'm not sure how the sidebar was before, but we used to have the release. Never mind. I don't see anything missing per se. No, I don't really see anything missing at the moment.
Would you want to see an aggregated like release notes from all the projects in here? I'm kind of leading the witness here, but like, how would you expect to distribute information from this page to your users?
That's a good point. I think adding release notes would be too noisy, just because it already feels a bit noisy, just because we have all the releases here. So if we want to look at an aggregate release, I would probably expect to see like a more info button here or somewhere where I can click on it and then the whole release, group release is a single page view with all the aggregated release notes. Because if I see all the aggregated release notes here, it's going to be a bit too busy because it already feels like there's a lot going on this page.
Mm-hmm. And then on this same topic, what pieces of information do you think that should be prioritized in this view?
Okay, so I would probably, so first thing would be I would not put the upcoming as the default version, like the all. The upcoming will be in their separate tab, and I can view them when I want to. Because imagine that I'm a user, right, trying to see what my previous releases were. And like, for example, in GitLab's case, we already have like 7 milestones upcoming, right? So theoretically, we already have 7 releases upcoming. For me as a user, like for example, 3.2 got released right now, I would have to scroll down to actually find 3.2 without, so I would say the default view would be the ones that are released. And then if I'm actually interested in the upcoming, I will look at the upcoming. So that's one improvement I can think of. And can you repeat the question again, please?
What pieces of information are most important and should be prioritized?
Okay. So yeah, the current milestones, I would say a way to look at what the issues are. So probably it depends on how the person generates the changes, like, right? If it's via issues or via merge requests or a combination of both. But an easy way to look at what actually changed might would be the number one priority. So uh, finding a button, okay, I can click on it and I'll get an aggregated list of the change logs, for example. So I'm guessing this is because it's still not closed, the milestone itself, but since it's already 100% complete, I don't really need to see this, but I'm not sure what the difference between group release 1.3 and 1.2 is. I'm guessing it's just because of the date here. If it's just because of the date, I'm confused why it is not marked as an upcoming milestone, since the milestone is not closed, so I expect it to be upcoming, unless there's a difference between an upcoming release and a still open milestone. I do not know. Because it seems strange that I have a milestone and in the middle of the milestone I have a release attached to it. So does that mean that a milestone can have multiple releases, group releases, sorry. So that's a bit strange, but I would say the most important information would be the list of releases like we have right now and the changelog of each release.
And why would that specifically be strange, a milestone across multiple releases?
I guess it depends how you like. It's just how I viewed group milestones. From my point of view, is like a milestone is something that everyone release at the same time, meaning that, like, for example, let's say, okay, people can release at different times. For example, the runner releases 2 days before GitLab, but for me, that's still an upcoming release because 13.2 has still not finished yet until both GitLab Runner, Gitly, Workhorse, and all that tag the tags. And then we say, okay, this release is public now, so everyone can download it, right? So sub-projects can release earlier, like probably what group release 1.3 did. But for me, it's still an upcoming release because, like, for example, it's still not packaged as one release, right? That's how I think of it, but I'm pretty sure there are other some use cases where it is a completely valid use case.
So I think this is following the paradigm of milestones being upcoming in this prototype, Pioneer. Is that right? Like milestones are upcoming because the end date's in the future, and
Yeah,
then
right.
released at will inherit the last date of the milestone if one's associated. So I'm wondering if if a badge like current release would be useful, and maybe that's what's pinned at the top, is if it's the current one. Although if there's multiple concurrent releases that could be that can compete for the top real estate, but a different badging, do you think that would help kind of differentiate for you?
I would say so, yes, because I would have to look like at the moment, like between group release 1.2 and 1.3, I would have to really look at the dates and see what date we are at to actually see, oh, why is there a progress bar? It's at 100%, but it's still not a closed release. Like I had to do a double take on that and actually look why and think why it's that case. So, yeah. I like that we don't show the issues or the list of milestones here, because at the end of the day, the milestone is there. But I would like to actually see somewhere, for example, in the single page view, actually see which milestones were attached to this release. Because, for example, for traceability reasons, or like if I want to dig into, I don't know, what happened in 13.1. I want to see all the issues associated to it, all the milestones associated to it. So I like that the initial view is empty as possible. That's good. But then I would like to see like a way to drill down to everything. That makes sense.
So if these were hyperlinked and you're able to click into them from the progress view, would that accomplish what you're looking for?
Yes. So I understand these are hyperlinked, but I'm talking
Yeah.
about the already released milestone. So group release 1.2, right? That's already finished, if I'm understanding it correctly. How can I see which milestones were attached to this release and which issues were attached to this release?
So this might not have milestones attached to it, because people can use releases without having milestones, because not everyone's planning with a milestone.
Fair enough.
So
Okay.
if it does, that would be an empty state milestone, then that's what that looks like. So it's on the
Okay.
onus of the user, and the way that it looks right here, like with milestones, that's going to be populated from the project or from you creating a release and setting it, right?
Okay, so we can create a group release without milestones. Okay,
Right.
that makes more sense. Then the CY makes a lot more sense. Okay.
Thank you, Jackie, for jumping into that. Jackie, do you want to cover also assets?
Yeah. So one thing that we were thinking about here is this idea of source code being displayed at the group level. Given that there isn't a repository at the group, we would need to take all of the assets that are inside of each of these group or each of these projects and display them here. Would that be a natural experience for you, or would you rather just consume the assets on the project release?
I would expect like I'm not sure where we have this, but I think we have it in the job page where we have like a download button and it gives me a list of artifacts to download. So probably I would expect a button here, like a download button, and it, when I click on it, it will pop up and give me the list of assets. But I would not expect a whole list of assets. For example, I don't know, the runner team provides like 30 assets per release. And like seeing 30 assets here is going to be way too overwhelming and noisy for me. So either allowing me to click the download button or going to the release itself to download the assets, that makes a lot more sense than having them here.
Great. I don't have any other outstanding questions. Jackie, do you have any other topics do you think that are relevant?
What are your initial impressions of this idea? What do you think about it?
So I'm still a bit hazy about it. So the main goal is to have multiple releases grouped into one, right? Now, what I'm confused about is where the milestones come in. So I can have a group milestone and I can have a project specific milestone. So it's trying to group everything together. Is that correct?
Yeah. So how we see users leveraging today, like in our GitLab instance, people are planning to the 13.2 milestone. And in order to map that correctly, they have to create a 13.2 project milestone. but you don't get to see the cross group progress or cross project progress in gitlab.org because you can't plan at that group milestone level with each individual release. So this gives you the opportunity to see your plan versus delivery if you're using milestones. But there's also the use case of customers not using milestones, and they want to be able to aggregate cross project releases so that they have a single place to go to create their bundle. Because when we think about a microservice project, for example, they have one production instance that 16 different projects are feeding into. That customer end experience comes out on the 30th of August. But every other team is going to be delivering their pieces in succession prior to the 30th of August. So they want to aggregate that in progress release and pull it into this view so that they can track and triage and see everything at that level, regardless if they're using a milestone for planning.
And is there a way for, like, for example, if I'm using this feature, is there a way for me to attach an asset to a group milestone? So imagine in GitLab's case, right? It provides a package for all the projects specified into one, like workhorse, GitLab pages, and like, for example, GitLab itself, right? They're all into a RPM package that the user can download. Like, can I view that somehow in the group release, or do I have to go into the GitLab?
So that's exactly what the question was. Like, would you expect to see the assets from each of the projects on this view? Because today, like, we don't have that provided here. That will be an action that you go into each of the projects to view. There won't be like an upload of assets to the group release in this current world. And that's mainly because there's no repository at the group level.
That makes sense.
So you're not creating assets typically or artifact binaries at the group.
But maybe a way to, like, I'm not sure from a technical perspective, your perspective, but like if I'm creating a group release, right, and the releases already exist and they already all have a list of assets associated to that release, can I choose, for example, hey, for the group milestone, I want to have asset 1 and asset 2 visible on the high level, and then I don't know, if the user really wants to download GitLab Workhorse on its own, I will go on the GitLab Workhorse release and download the asset there. So as a user, give me an option which from the child asset to put as a call to action asset kind of thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So if we were to click like edit my group release, maybe there's another pick list of the project assets that it would allow you to multi-select.
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually have a node prototype with that.
Look at you.
Yeah.
You're so good. I love working with you, Hayana. Just you anticipating people's needs gets me pumped.
I just didn't add here because I thought it was going to be too much for the scope. But if you leave the full screen mode, so you can see, I don't know how I do that. Yeah, there's a sandwich hamburger icon on the left.
Got it.
Click group releases, the one on top. Yeah, and then if you see my name there, this is where I am now. Here. I zoom in there. Yeah, so this was a previous prototype where I had, for example, let me remove this because it's a mess now. Where you have like the assets here, and also the option to show some assets in this view. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea of like having a way to show like the main assets. For example, as you said, imagine multiple microservices, but then you provide one way to download everything as one binary, right? So just providing me a way to choose an asset, but like not all of them at once by default, because that would be way too overwhelming, but like allowing the creator of group releases to specify which assets to show, that would be beneficial for sure.
And if you navigate to the left, I think, yeah. Go on. This was a previous prototype as well, where you had in this is just a screenshot, this part here, just a screenshot of the current releases view. But the idea was that you could either add new assets or select assets from existing project releases to be displayed at the group release level.
Yeah, adding new assets. I'm not sure about adding new assets. I guess there might be a case, but yeah, as Jackie said, there would be a problem where to actually host the
And to
assets,
like
right?
dig into this, this would be a link to a project asset. So it's an asset link, not really like the actual
Okay.
tarball or
Yeah.
artifact. So that would be an application of the links to deep link into the project artifact.
Yep.
I think that going back to your point, it's an MVC, like a lightweight way to display information on the group release without requiring us to support repositories at the group level.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this makes sense. I think links to assets, so then the user can quickly click on it and then we'll link into some other place. So yeah, I agree.
Okay, that's perfect. Well, thank you for your time and impressions. This was super useful for us. We're going to create some follow-up issues and tweak these, the prototypes, and kind of refine what our MVC approach will be. I think initially it's kind of just the leanest way for people to aggregate releases at a group level from sub projects, and then of course bridge that plan versus delivery gap. Most importantly, we want to support the dogfooding of releases. So just allowing people to associate a project release to a group milestone is our first chip away at that. But this was super helpful for me. Thank you so much. And hi, Anna, thank you for your beautiful prototypes. They were awesome.
Awesome.